life always changes, and eventually I went and I kind of got a hankering for getting back into the theater world, or at least having it be a bigger part of my life. And so I met a friend who became my business partner, and we decided to start a theater company together. Essentially, we started a studio, a school.
Right.
It's called InterMountain Performing Arts Conservatory. We call it IMPAC.
Yeah.
And IMPAC is a studio that teaches musical theater primarily to kids, all ages, but primarily kids between the ages of about 8 and 18.
Right.
And we teach acting, we teach dance, we teach singing, and then we started a nonprofit theater company adjacent to it, started producing shows.
Right.
And so that's been a really big part of my life these last couple of years. But I also became good friends with Brooke Twitchell, who previously held this job. And she needed some part-time help. And, when you start in a new business, it never hurts to have a little side job. Right?
Yeah, I need a little side gig. That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So I started working for her part-time, and I think a couple months after I started working for her, she announced that she was leaving to go to BCI.
Oh, yeah.
So it just seemed like a natural fit for me. I've been producing theater for a long time. Theater is essentially an event.
An event, yeah, exactly.
And so I felt like transferring those skills over and, having something secure with, the reason you like to get a career, right? The benefits and being in something a little more stable. We still have the theater company. It's doing great. But this role certainly takes up a lot more of my time than I had originally anticipated, but I love it.
One thing I really love about the theater, and I went to your White Christmas show this last Christmas season, holiday season, and I loved not only that you're trying to make White Christmas an annual tradition. Yeah. So if you don't know IMPAC Theater and you love White Christmas, that's just a classic. Go to IMPAC Theater. But what I love about IMPAC Theater is you have an adult cast and you have a youth cast. Yeah. And that adult cast, as you've explained to me, mentors that youth cast. Yep. And so I just thought that concept was so cool, because I remember doing theater. My first play was the Phantom of the Soap Opera. And I just remember being so naive, in fact, that I didn't know I had one of the lead parts until partway through the production. I realized I was the detective that was solving the crime of the Phantom and all these things. But it would have been so cool to have an adult that I could look up to, or someone that's done it before and give me little pointers and tips. Because, I was just a kid just having fun with theater. And anyways, I loved theater, in high school and middle school and everything. So I just thought that was so cool.
Well, thank you. We are really proud of that model. We jumped into it like we do a lot of things, not knowing whether or not it would work, because I've never seen it done anywhere else. And when it seems like there must be a reason nobody else is doing this, right?
Yeah. But sometimes that's where the niche is, right? Yeah. Like, why isn't anybody doing this? You just did The Addams Family, right? And you sold out, and then you had to add an extra day, right? Just because so many people were requesting it. Now, granted, the space is it's kind of a small space,
sure.
But I love that. It's theater on the round, right? It's an intimate space. It's awesome. Tell the address of where IMPAC
Sure,
is.
it's 389 North, 100 West. It's actually in the little Alpine Commercial Shopping Center behind
State Bank, right?
Yeah, behind State Bank, and also it's in the same parking lot that the old Iron County Today building was in. Now it's a salon.
Okay.
But we're in the back corner there, a deceptively large space, actually.
It looks small.
Right.
It looks like a little tiny strip mall.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got the corner office is what's going on.
Yeah. And it's about 2,200 square feet in there. Our main space is about 1,500 square feet. And that's where we do our performances. And we have audiences of about 80 people. And what I think is really cool. So for those who are tuned into children's theater here in town, right? CCCMT, the musical theater, City Children's Musical Theater. What an incredible program they have,
right?
And they've been doing it forever, and they do such a great job. Working with all those kids, and it's hundreds of kids.
Yeah,
right?
they were essential in the Pioneer Day celebration that the Osmonds just put on, right?
Yes, they were. And they always do a phenomenal job. We had no intention coming in to say, like, let's let's do what they're doing, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they do
right.
it too well. We're not going to compete with that. But what we did see was an opportunity to sort of supplement what they do by offering some more specialized, individualized training, a little bit more like hands-on, smaller experience.
Yeah.
And so we keep our shows while they do these giant. They're doing SpongeBob, which
Right.
is, they're going to have a huge cast. and
That just cracks me up. I've got to go see
I know,
that.
I can't wait to see it. I'm excited about it.
You know what I realized? Sorry, side note.
Yeah.
SpongeBob's laugh is just the sound of a dolphin. So next time you watch SpongeBob, I should try to impersonate it. It's like, it just it's just the sound of a dolphin. We'll see how that translates. Anyways,
okay.
But yeah.
Well, we just thought, wouldn't it be cool if there was something, with a little smaller, more niche, So we do casts. Our shows only have cast sizes of between 16 and 20 people.
Yeah,
and
that's
then
great.
We double that up by having an adult cast and a youth cast, like you said, and they mentor the adults mentor the youth throughout the process. It's really, I feel like it's just a whole nother experience, a chance for those students that are really interested in the theater, right?
Right.
To get a little bit more training, to get another leg up in their skill set, and
Right,
be around people and to be able to watch. I can't tell you as a professional actor how many times I've played a role and thought, man, I wish I could just see somebody else do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
well, okay. So there's a couple things that I want to go through, and I definitely want to circle back around to events here in a minute. But one thing that's interesting to me that I think is interesting to local businesses, to economic development is, even though it's IMPAC Theater is a nonprofit, you still have to go through all the hoops that any local business would have to go through, right?
Right.
Securing a building, whatever financing or investment, marketing. So walk me through, very high level for just very brief and high level, like what were some of the sticking points as you were trying to make that happen, and where did you find some of your successes in that?
Yeah, sure. So we're in an interesting. We have an interesting setup because our school is a for-profit business, and our theater company, which runs adjacent to it, is a nonprofit.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
So
we
you're kind of
actually
got
have
this
two
dual
separate businesses.
Oh, okay,
running.
cool.
And the theater company almost has to be nonprofit, right?
Yeah,
because especially if you want to be eligible for any kind of grant money, it's much more dependent on fundraising because with the way expenses, the way prices of things are going up, the cost of producing theater, of course, obviously goes up. And if you want to keep ticket prices accessible at all for people, there's no way that your ticket prices are going to cover the cost of what you're doing. Not if you want to do high quality theater
productions. Yeah.
So, going through that process was essential for us, and a big part of it obviously was getting a board together, getting a good group of people. We have a great board. Scott Phillips is on our board.
Yeah, I was gonna say name a few that's on your board.
Brooke Twitchell, Don Jersey, Robert and Shirley Kramer, Caleb Reese,
Awesome.
Julie Griffin. And then me and Tam. It's just a great group of people, and we just added Jennifer Denhalter as well. So,
and the name of your partner again?
Tamara Merkley.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, she's great. So we had to get the board together, and then then you've got to incorporate it, right? You've got to go through. We went to David Westwood and Westwood Law, and they helped us out. There are obviously lots of attorneys in town who can help with that. That's who we went to, and they did a great job and charged us a smaller fee because it's a nonprofit.
Yeah, awesome.
So that was really nice. And
how about finding a building, securing that, getting your equipment, all that? I'm sure that's got to be a pain, right?
It is.
I always admire small business owners. So I'm entrepreneurial, but I'm all about low risk. And so hence my job in economic development is out there trying to help the businesses because my father-in-law still owns small businesses. And I just marvel every time at the ups and downs of small business and trying to make it happen, whether it's securing a building, cheaper rent, or wherever. Sometimes the location is just based on where can you get a good rent from. So talk a little bit about those hurdles.
Yeah, we lucked out on the rent as far as the size of our space. It's, It is stressful, right? Knowing that you gotta that rent check has gotta come every month, right? And where's it gonna come from?
Yeah.
You gotta keep programming, especially with musical theater. It's interesting because like if you run a dance studio, you can do dance is an interesting art form where you can do drop-in classes. You can have ongoing, every Friday this class goes on and anybody can drop in. You don't have to sign up for like this period of time. When you get into things like acting and in musical theater, a lot of times it's tough to do those ongoing. Anybody can drop in at any time because you're working on a curriculum that builds, right? And so if you have to almost do these like 4-week, 6-week long sessions, and we've experimented with all kinds of lengths just to try and see what people are most interested in. Right now, we're about to go into our fall where we have 3 4-week musical theater sessions that we're going to do that end with a musical review performance. It's going to be a lot of fun. They're all themed. And we're doing a Disney Wish Upon a Star, and then we're going to do a Disney Villains one, and then we're going to do a holiday review in November. So figuring out, I think that's been the hardest part, is figuring out how to get the programming right that is the right amount of time for people, for them to commit.
Right.
And that does make, paying the rent stressful because we're still trying to figure that stuff out. Finding a building is a funny story. We actually, when we got the idea to start the business, we were like, this is maybe like a 2024 start, right? I think we were originally thinking it would take us a little while, but let's wander around and see if we can find out what's out there for us because we have such a unique
need or offering.
Exactly. And so we started wandering around and checking out different spaces, and we found this space, and it was an old martial arts studio. And we walked in there, and the minute we walked in, it had an upstairs studio, a downstairs studio, these smaller, like 200 square foot spaces.
Did you have any flashes of Cobra Kai or anything in there?
Well, maybe a little, actually. But yeah, and then this big 1,500 square foot space, and they already had a couple mirrors up on the wall. We had to add some more, but we walked in there, and even though it didn't look anything like it looks right now, we saw it. We walked in there and we saw what it was going to look like.
It's love at first sight.
Yeah.
You can envision it.
Yep. And the rent was, considering the size of the space, the rent was reasonable. And we just kind of both looked at each other and said, I guess we're doing it. I guess we're starting now.
That's awesome.